Word of warning, the character of Master Voluminous is simply that, a character. He might not be evil, but he is definitely a bastard. So try not to let what he says offend you, okay? Enjoy.
Greetings, I am the mighty Master Voluminous, teacher, commentator, and most importantly to you, storyteller. Today we continue the Voluminous Raid series with the second last story in the horror novella Phinki. So far we've looked at 4 women: Tando Ndelu, whose husband caused her to have a miscarriage, Akona Dala, whose boyfriend continuously harassed her, Jordan Forey, whose girlfriend kept her in their apartment, and Amanda Smith, who abused her husband. All of these women were possessed by an evil spirit called Phinki, who specifically targets women in abusive relationships and dangerous situations. I recommend looking at the other episodes on the podcast or purchasing the book on Amazon to see how all of these stories end. We're going to take a break from domestic violence in this episode, and instead take a look at one of this world's most heinous crimes. And our protagonist is Tasha Naidoo.
Before we begin reading, I am going to list all the ways in which you may seek more content or an audience with the Master. First, check out mortiferousarcadia.blogspot.com. That is our main website. Or send an email to mortiferousarcadia@gmail.com if you wish to express how this story made you feel. Look up Mortiferous Arcadia on Facebook and Wattpad. And finally, search Master Voluminous on Twitter, Instagram, YouTube, Tumblr, DeviantArt, or Pinterest and give us a follow. Phinki by Enyadike is available on Amazon. Now then, on to the story.
Tasha Naidoo. She takes the watch out of the box. She had gotten it yesterday as a birthday gift. It has a black strap, a golden case with a pink crystal, black Roman numerals on its black face. The hands are gold with pointed teeth. She gets her running clothes on and heads out of her apartment. She greets the building's owner at the front desk when she reaches the ground floor. He smiles and waves. Her watch vibrates for a moment. She looks down at it. He asks if anything is wrong. She says no, and exits through the front doors. The sun is still rising. She plans to run for at least an hour before heading to school. She takes a moment to stretch. The street is mostly empty apart from a few people walking on the other side. Placing earphones into her ears and strapping her phone to her arm, she starts jogging down the road, passing apartment blocks, businesses, and a high school. The music in her workout playlist is a collection of hip-hop, R&B, and trap songs. Her pace and breathing are controlled by the rhythm, speeding up and slowing down depending on the song. She has them set in a specific order for the purpose of regulating her workout. She sees a few cars pass her. The sky is brightening, and she reaches a junction where she stops and stretches once again, as well as catching her breath. Once done, she turns around, walks for a bit to regain her energy. As she goes back up the road, the street slowly fills up with cars and people. She feels up to running again and starts doing so, once again working with the rhythm of her music. She passes a quad of young men. One of them eyes her and remarks on her body. She does not hear what he says, nor does she see him getting told off by his friend. But she does feel her watch vibrate again. She stops and looks at it, sees the time, and checks her phone. They match. I've been out too long. She picks up her running pace in order to get back home, quickly shower and get dressed, then get to varsity. The building owner greets her as she enters. She does the same and heads upstairs. In 15 minutes, she is ready and goes back down and out again. The university is in the opposite direction of her jogging route. She uses her phone to call a taxi and goes to school. At some point during the trip, her watch starts vibrating again. There is no apparent functionality that would allow this. She asks a friend from the party who had given it to her, but he says he had worn it for a week and it never vibrated. The rest of the day is uneventful, almost seeming to go faster than usual. Before she knows it, the evening reaches and she finds herself back at her building. The owner calls her over, asking for help. The watch vibrates again, more vigorously this time. She slaps it, and it stops. She has nothing urgent to do, so she puts down her bag and goes around the counter to a back room. There are 3 boxes on the ground that need to be put on the shelf. She picks up a box. It is light, empty. The door to the room shuts and locks. She turns to see him approaching her. She backs away as the watch starts vibrating again, this time audibly. Her lips press together, stopping her from screaming. Her watch-wearing hand moves by itself. The other follows suit, ripping open her shirt and tearing it to the ground. Her mouth curls into a smile which prompts him to come closer, ignoring her eyes darting in every direction. She moves closer to him, slowly lowering her brassiere. He reaches out to touch her breast, and with her eyes slowly welling up with tears, she gently places his hand on it. They move even closer to each other, at which point she grabs him by the throat with long clawed fingers. She slams him against the door and pushes down on his larynx. The watch is still vibrating. The hands are moving fast enough to create a golden round blur. She feels her smile widen and her brows furrow. Her free hand slides the pointed tip of its finger down his stomach. A fast-paced song from her playlist is playing in her mind. He's on the floor. She's on top. Her eyes are wide, tears dripping from them. He is suffocating. The song ends. Her lips no longer stick to each other. She arches her back and screams, throwing her arms up while still holding his neck. His head hits the ceiling and bounces on top of hers before hitting the ground. The watch stops vibrating. The hands stop moving. She throws up and collapses. A different song starts playing in her head again, one she is not familiar with. There are lyrics, but the music is eerily similar to laughter. Well, that's a preemptive strike if I've ever heard of one. Oh, lady, the damn watch was trying to warn you. How could you not see it? And now you're trapped in a closet with a dead guy. And probably pregnant too. Oh well. It is strange how, out of all the ways to possess her, it was a watch this time. You remember, for those of you who had been following, the previous victims had some kind of jewel that resembled a pink eye. With the exception of Okonadala, who had a pink eye appear on the screen of her phone. There's no eye here, except for the watch, maybe. When the hands started moving so fast, they were creating a circular blur. It sort of created an eye, but... What do you think is the nature of this creature's powers? How do you think it does it? If you want to let me know, make sure you do it via the methods of contact I'd listed before. In the next episode, we will be looking at the final story in Phinki. From which point, we will move on to another story written by Gift and Enyadike. Vato or Feel Free to Die. And I'm certainly looking forward to that one.
Goodbye, my listeners.